please point your damn toes. In this video, I'll show you some tips and some stretches to help you improve your arches and your point. Maybe your teachers will tell you to point your toes a little less. You can really get started warming up anyway, but you can do a few things from the floor to start before you take it up. You can start with just some ankle rolls. And so with these, I'm really rolling through that full range of motion in the ankle. I'm pointing through that full point, and we'll take it through both directions. It's okay to work through these angles through the ankle in the air, where I'm not putting weight into it, but you need to be really careful and considerate when working through these ankles. If you're putting weight into it, you wanna watch our alignment. You can do some ankle circles through both at the same time or one at a time. And you can always get a little prop to help you out if you need one. Put it under your knee, help you get a little more lift off the floor to work through those rolls. Next, you can start to just work on some flexing and some pointing through your feet with both feet together. I'm really thinking about having straight knees and flexing as hard as I can, my toes towards my face, and then rolling through the top of the ankle, finishing pointing through the toes. You start flexing the toes, take it through the foot, finish with the ankle. Move slowly as you do these to get started, to start feeling the different sections in your feet. And we're going for some super engaged flex and slow points. We always think about pointing through the toes with straight toes. We don't want to crunch them. And again, if you need a little prop to help you, throw it under your knees, or a little yoga block, a little pillow, roll up a towel to help you get a little lift off that floor to work through those flexes and those points. Another helpful thing you can do to help warm up your arches and stretch out those feet before or after you get moving would be to grab a little ball of some kind, a tennis ball, a golf ball. You have a lot of different options of what might work, and you can help kind of get in between all those little muscles in your feet. You can also help stretch out those toes, because again, when you're pointing, you want to think about pointing through with straight toes. You don't ever want to crunch them. You can take this guy and start to take it toe by toe, stretching out the little toes, keeping them straight, just holding it for 10 to 15 seconds and kind of moving through toe by toe. Helps get a little lift. Again, it's funky to get used to it in your feet, pointing with those straight toes. It's really common to get some cramping, especially when you're first working on these muscles in your feet. So take it slow, stretch it out whenever you need to. You can also start to take it into the meat of the foot, in between the ball of the foot, really get into the arches here. And again, the pressure will change if you're standing versus just sitting. Will change how much you're able to get in there. You can always use an assist to help you roll out those arches, and your pressure will be different if you're on the floor versus in the air, but you can kind of push to help get some separation in between the tendons and the different muscles, kind of spreading out the bottom of the foot there. Another stretch you can start to get into that helps you strengthen the muscles in your feet and work through getting a nicer point. If you have a little TheraBand or any sort of resistance band, or even like a towel or other sort of prop similar to this, you can take it, you can wrap it around that top half of your foot, make sure your toes are covered and try to have it underneath the ball of your foot, and you can start working through those flex and points with some resistance. It's really strange when you get to that final half of your point where you're following through with the toes to add that resistance, but that's really what you're working through. Again, remember to work slowly, starting through the top of the ankle, arching as much as you can, then through the ball of the foot, and finishing pointing through straight toes, avoiding any crunch. To take it back up, start with the toes, then take it through the ball of the foot, finish through the top of the ankle for that flex. You can do one foot, or you can always take it for doing both at the same time. And again, you can start to layer this up. If you want to add more resistance, make it double, make it triple, lots of options. You can start to take it up to get a little warmer and start to actually put some weight into it. And for these, I like to start with just little prances where I take it up through the arch of one foot, go to both, and transfer. So I'm prancing from one foot to the other. I'm thinking about rising all the way up to that very top of the arch for both feet in between. And when I'm lowering one heel down, I'm thinking about this little stretch over that arch. It's important to start talking about some basic foot alignment and the different positions we can work through in our feet when we're starting to take some weight into them. And so when we're starting to do some prances or think about doing some raises all the way up on those arches, we want to think about the alignment here. We want to really avoid any rolling out or any stabilizing outward. We want to zip it up and in, right through the center of the foot here. That ball in between the big toe and the little toe to find that alignment. That's where our ankles and the bones are most stable. You want to think about having some straight toes as well. We want to avoid any time it starts to get crunchy. We don't want that. We can start to take it for full calf raises with both feet all the way up and all the way down. We want to think about following a straight line up, straight line down, going all the way over to that max point of our arch. We want to avoid, again, any wobbling out or too much in. We want to think about that super straight up, super straight down. Also think about having straight knees, think about your core, and where are your eyes looking? Doesn't help to look down. Look up where you want to be, always lifted. A nice stretch I like to do for my arch is to take it out a little wider away from that body so you can lean into it. You'll plant that ball of the foot and think about that max arch position. From there you can lean with that knee straight over the toe. You can go from one foot to the other and give it some little leans to help kind of stretch into that demi point and that arch of the foot. After your prances and your calf raises, you can start to take it into a little more complicated of a sequence that starts to push into your arches a little bit more. You can take it all the way up for your raise, bend it down, knees together, plant the heels, and then straighten it up. All the way up, stay lifted over those arches to bend into them, then plant the heels and stand it up. You can always reverse these, bending first, raising through the arches, straightening through the knees, planting the heels down, bending, lifting all the way over those arches, straightening the knees up, planting it down. A more advanced variation is to take it into some single leg raises to work through that calf, the back of your Achilles, and your arch. You can always start from both and then give a little point and connect to that side of the ankle or behind. From there, really use that one leg through the ball of the foot, following that straight line. Use your core, straight knee to work through some single leg raises. Always make sure to do your other side. Really fight to lift all the way over the arch. Don't let it come to a close halfway point. That's good enough. No, fight, get all the way over as archy as you can get it. You can also just work on some holds here. You can start to do some balances. Another good exercise to start working through your toe point and your arches are your tendus, which is just a point off of the floor. You can just start to work on a lift and a point. You want to think about your heel leading and your toes pulling back. A really good one here is to keep it out in front of you, keep your leg out in front of you. From a point, you're just going to work through planting the ball of your foot down with straight toes and pointing your toes off the ground. You're going to really use the ground to help you get some lift through the toes to help add to that point. Again, keeping the toes straight, trying to avoid any crunching underneath. But it's just a little lift from the ball planted, straightening through that toe to help with that point. It's super important that you give your feet some love. Almost every time you're moving, you can always work on improving your point, improving your arch, and working on your toes, which will help any line in any sort of movement you ever do. So it's more important than you probably think. I notice it on every dancer, every aerialist. They can have a beautiful split, a perfect back bend, but if their toes aren't pointed, it ruins the shape. So please consider your toes, give them some love. We put out videos every Wednesday, so if you are looking for more tips like this, check us out.